There we go. All right, now we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the RocketMSP Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Taylor, and today I'm joined by Rayanne, and I intentionally did not ask how to pronounce your last name. I only have two options to choose from in my mind, Buchianico or Buchianico.
You were right the first time, Buchianico.
Okay. I'm doing well.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
So Rayanne, I remember, we met, it's been like 5, 6, 8, I don't know, however many years. Was it like Autotask 2012 or something like that?
Autotask 2012, wasn't that the one in Scottsdale, Arizona?
No, it wasn't Scottsdale.
Well,
Where were we?
I'm certain that we met in Miami. It was definitely at an Autotask Community Live.
Yeah.
And I want to say it was in Miami. So it was probably around 2014.
I guess I didn't realize, did they go to Miami more than once?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, because I
Thanks.
remember going, I think it was 18. They were in Miami. Or was it 16? Last year was a hell of a decade. I keep telling people this. So it's all these years are blurring together anymore. But I remember going, and this was after I started doing my podcast. So this was long after I met you to make me sound old. You're the same age. So yeah, I remember going to Miami, and that was the first time I'd ever really like experienced Miami. And that was at that real fancy hotel just a couple of years ago. And I think I ran into you again there. Mm-hmm. I just, I think we were running in different circles and I didn't get to really talk with you much. But back in I want to say it was 2012, we met somewhere at a Datto event. I think it was Florida. I just don't know that it was Miami. It might have been a Saint something or a Fort something.
There was one Autotask Community Live in Orlando. And I want to say
that was it.
It was, I think, either 11 or 12.
I bet that was it.
And you're right.
So I've known about you for a while. I have always known and thought of you as Rayanne, the lady that can do an MSP's taxes and do them well. But there's like so much more to you. So can you please enlighten the group? What all does Rayanne do?
Okay, what does Rayanne do? So Rayanne owns an accounting firm. It's called ABC Solutions, and we're located in Clearwater, Florida, and we specialize in working with MSPs around the U.S. and Canada, and we help manage their books. We file their sales taxes, we prepare live payroll, we do income taxes, we do tax projections, KPIs, metrics, all of those things. And we've been specializing in working with MSPs probably for, we've focused on that for probably the last 8 or 9 years, although I've been in business since 2005. So I'm coming up on my 16th anniversary of being in business.
Congrats.
Thank you.
That's a good amount of time.
It's been a ride, it's a couple of recessions, a couple of hurricanes. Mm-hmm. We had an oil spill, so it's been a ride.
Oof. All right. So accounting for MSPs, you also do Autotask consulting though.
I do. We tend to specialize in Autotask. I have been working with Autotask since 2006, right? So when I first went out on my own and started my own business, and at the time I was still, running a lot of IT services. So ABC Solutions got the name for Accounting, Business, and Computing. So that's what the ABC stands for, is Accounting, Business, and Computing Solutions. Because at the time, I thought, well, I could be an accountant during the day and I can, wire networks and, set up servers, by night, and I can be all things to all people. Well, that's not a sustainable business practice, as anybody who's ever tried to be all things to all people can, can ascertain. But, but when it came time to make the decision, that, okay, I need to find a core focus of my business. I quickly realized that accounting was, the smarter decision, but I just could not leave the technology. I was running an SBS user group out of Tampa Bay, and I had so many friends and, trusted people that I knew in the IT channel. I wasn't willing to give it up. And then here comes Autotask, because I'm in the Tampa Bay area at the time. ConnectWise would not sell their product to anybody within a 50-mile radius of them. So so our only option at the time was Autotask. Autotask came out onto the scene, and I started to get really involved in helping all of my local IT friends connect their Autotask, to QuickBooks. And I thought, I'll bet you this is a service that a lot of people are going to need someday. So I started to really focus on that. And Harry Brailsford introduced me to Vince at Autotask, Leonard D. Costanzo. He introduced me to him, and then Lenny introduced me to Bob Godgart and Jay McBain. And so then I started doing more and more consulting and talking with them, working with the development people over at Autotask, and still working with them on a lot of the QuickBooks integrations and things. So, yeah, that's how we got here. Long story.
That is really cool. No, we have plenty of time. All right, so wow. So at this point, you're like not doing IT services. You're not running an MSP then.
So my MSP is about this big, right? And for anybody who's only listening to us, I've got my fingers like about a quarter of an inch apart. I do have a couple of local businesses that I manage their IT for. And really, I do it for two main reasons. One, it helps keep me relevant in the IT channel, so as I'm, as I'm doing all of these different things with these, new tools and learning what everything does, it helps keep me relevant. I even manage my own IT for the most part. I'm, with help from some friends around the world. But the other reason that I do it is really because they're very small companies with very limited IT knowledge, and they just simply need help, but really, I set up their Microsoft 365 tenants and, connected everything, that, and I'll go and plug in a printer from time to time, or, everybody's, they're peer-to-peer networks. They're really nothing except for my dentist client. My dentist client has a server, but everybody else is peer-to-peer. So it's very, very minimal IT stuff. My focus is accounting, and I'm running out of time to spread that out.
So I've got to ask the question.
Of course.
You said you've got a dentist client, so HIPAA.
Yep. So, yep. So, and I try and stay on top of that as much as possible. I've been using a Cisco firewall for years and years, and I'm not at all Cisco certified. So if I run into problems, with my dentist client, I call on third tier, and I get somebody over there to help me. I do not pretend to be the person that knows it all, because that's scary stuff. But I know I can trust the third tier people to help me out anytime I need them.
And what's funny is I just had Amy on yesterday.
Oh, really?
So,
fun.
so you know what a BAA is?
No.
You don't know what a BAA is?
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the acronym. Can you elaborate?
The Business Associates Agreement for HIPAA compliance.
Okay.
So you're going to get a bunch of people trolling you now.
I know.
I'm sorry, Rayanne. I'm sorry. All right. So a BAA is basically because you are doing IT for a company that has compliance regulations, the BAA is something that you need to sign with them. And you also need to get them signed between you and your vendors that are relevant to them.
Okay.
So basically, the BAA is, I mean, it's. I'm not going to call it confidentiality because it's so much more than that, and I'm not going to say it's just like an MSA because it's so much more than that. But it is basically defining the terms of your relationship, and how and why and when and whatever you will access their machines and their patient data.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes total sense. And I will make sure that I get that into place. I hadn't really considered it. So,
And I'll be honest, dentists don't usually want to be HIPAA compliant.
well,
Dentists and eye doctors,
yeah,
they hate
I
it.
don't know what it is about dentists. I think they still have most of their lunch money. And I make jokes about it. At least this one particular, dental client that I have, he's a very good friend. And again, that's pretty much the reason why I stepped in to help him. And he had this, old server that was dying a slow and painful death. And so I finally got him to part with some money to update everything. So I don't think I'd have a problem getting him to sign.
Well, I will say I can't vouch for them because I just don't know it. I haven't worked with them to do it, but it sounds like Amy stays up to date on HIPAA, and I mean I know she was talking about CMMC, I think, and all kinds of other compliance stuff. So talk to them and make sure that you can protect yourself, because that would really suck if you got in trouble. I hear fines are expensive when it comes to HIPAA and patient privacy. Okay, so now that that's out of the way.
I have my own fines to think about from the IRS, right? So, I've got
Yeah.
compliance issues coming out my ears.
Yes, you do. So with the IRS stuff, are you an actual CPA?
I am not. I am an enrolled
So,
agent.
so how does that work? Like, what is the difference between a CPA and an enrolled agent?
So great question. Thank you for asking that. An enrolled agent is eligible to practice before the IRS in all 50 states. Okay, so I have to take this, this incredible exam. It's 4 parts over 2 days, and I had to pass all 4 parts, very much like the CPA exam, but it's focused 100% on tax. The CPA exam covers tax, auditing, and accounting, and a bunch. And there's 4 parts, but a CPA is only eligible to practice in the state in which they are licensed by the State Board of Accountancy. So I don't have that restriction because I'm licensed to practice in all 50 states. So that's the primary difference. There are things that CPAs can do that enrolled agents cannot. I cannot do a qualified review, and I cannot do a certified audit, but I don't want to do any of those things anyway. And when I mean audit, I mean, audits of nonprofits and audits of public businesses and, audited financial statements. I'm not talking about tax audits because I am perfectly capable of representing anybody in any tax audit.
All right. So MSPs doing taxes. What do we have anything like special we should or shouldn't be doing compared to like the other average businesses?
So when I'm helping MSPs, you know, I focus a bit on tax, right? So as I'm doing the accounting work, on a quarterly basis, at the end of every quarter, starting in the second quarter, I'll do a tax projection, right? So all things being equal between now and the end of the year, this is what you can reasonably expect to pay for income taxes. Gives us 6 months to prepare and to plan and fund retirement plans or do whatever to minimize taxes. And so that is something that we do. But, for MSPs, I would say focus more on what's going on in your business. And, the income taxes are the income taxes, your job is to try to make as much money as possible between January and December, assuming, of course, you have a calendar year tax basis, right? So that's your job, and that's where you should focus your energies. And and so I teach these courses that show MSPs how to line up their accounting system so that they can read it. Right. This is what I've made in product sales. This is what I've paid in product costs. This is my margin. Am I making enough money in that product margin? So I teach things like that. How to read the financials, how to spot the red flags. Do you have too much debt in your business? There's tons of things that can be done, to identify the red flags and to correct them. And that's where I try to focus my efforts. And then, when we get to the tax projections in July and September, and then again in November or December, because what you're doing when you're running your financials during the year, you should be looking at your financials on an accrual basis. I've invoiced X amount of dollars and I'm going to pay, Y amount of dollars. And this is the total amount of my sales for the month or the quarter or whatever. But you may not file your income taxes on the accrual basis. You may be filing on a cash basis. So always look at your financials based on accrual. You'll get much clearer information.
Okay, I like that. So I'm not sure if you've heard, there was this thing that happened last year it's called COVID-19. And because of that, Congress passed just a tiny little law, just a few $100s here and there, right? The CARES Act. And with that, we got PPP loans, and then we also got those SBA grants of up to $10,000.
Yep.
So I guess my first question I kind of have regarding those is, for the people that have gotten those loans and haven't taken care of the forgiveness part yet, how does that work on the taxes? Is that reportable income?
It is not. It was going to be. The original plan was that it was going to be reportable income, and but on December 27th, at the last hour, the president signed into law the second round of PPPs, and Congress made things very clear that the PPP loan forgiveness would not be taxable. The expenses paid with the PPP loans would indeed be deductible, and the EIDL advances also not taxable. So, on December 27th, that it had been announced that this was really, truly, indeed, free money from the government for the first time ever in the history of ever, right? Well,
I gotta say, I'm gonna make one political joke, and we're all just gonna move on. I just love that the Republicans wanted to give out all this free money. That's all I got. So the PPP money was free money. I know that the EIDL advance was a grant, so that was free money. Now, I know some MSPs who were denied the grant due to credit history.
They may have been denied the EIDL, the actual loan, because of the credit history. But I don't know if the grants were deniable, but it's possible. It's possible.
And that's right. So they applied, and because they were denied for the loan, they just didn't get the grant. So
That's
but
entirely.
then those same MSPs with I'm assuming it must have been like okay credit and not crappy credit. Their banks gave them the PPP loan. And maybe the banks are just a little more laissez-faire, assuming it'll all just get written off or so. I don't know. I don't know how it works.
So let me help you with that. The PPP loan, yes, you had to apply with your bank, but it was not up to the bank to actually release the funds. So once you applied to your bank, the bank took your application and they sent it off to the SBA. And the SBA then approved the funds and issued the PPP loans. Now, for the CARES Act, for the PPP loans, the loans were not to be collateralized. There was to be no credit requirement, so they didn't even have to check your credit in order for you to be qualified to receive the PPP loan. All you needed to do was be a small business in business on February 15th, and have employees, right? So
or be self-employed because just you counted.
Exactly, right? So and you were eligible for this loan. And the entire purpose of that was to make sure that you stayed in business. Now, the EIDL is an economic injury disaster loan, and those loans are available from the SBA all the time. And the SBA has some strict rules against those, that they do need to be collateralized. You do need to have a certain, credit score and credit history in order to qualify for that kind of loan, because it's like taking out a mortgage. As a matter of fact, it's almost exactly like a mortgage. It's 30 years, 3.75%. So everybody that had taken out that had received the EIDL, the actual loan, what you really did was you took a mortgage out on your business.
Wow. I never looked into it because I know I applied because I just wanted my free grant money, because hey, if they're going to give it out, I'm going to take it. But I didn't really look. I didn't get a loan. I just, so I didn't realize that the people that were taking like above and beyond the grant funds were taking out a mortgage on their business. That is scary. Wow. So does that mean the government could foreclose on your business if you stop paying that loan?
Well, you do. You're actually bound to a bunch of agreements when you sign that loan document. You're not allowed to use the money to relocate the business. So you can't just say, "Oh, I think I want to move to Florida today." And oh, look, I have all of this money from the SBA. I'm just going to pick up my business and move it to Florida. So the money must be used for working capital, and the SBA can come and ask for documentation as to what you're using the money for. And it's really not that difficult to show them that you're using the money, for your business, because really all you have to do is run a P&L, and spread it out by months, and and say, okay, these are all of my expenses, and so I have used this money, to cover those expenses. So it's really not that difficult to do that.
And I just sent you a private chat. I wasn't sure if you saw it. Someone wanted to say hi. So, all right. Let's see here. If we haven't done the loan forgiveness forms, is there a deadline?
There currently is not a deadline. And can I just say hello to Ryan real fast?
Absolutely, yeah.
Hey, Ryan, thanks for joining. Great to see you. So currently there is not a there's not a deadline for the PPP loan forgiveness applications. However, so as a matter of fact, I was talking with one of my clients today, and I was talking to one yesterday, and they're like, "What's going on with this loan forgiveness?" Apparently, we're supposed to help them with their forgiveness, but neither one of their banks even has the portal open for the forgiveness.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so
They're not using Chase, are they?
No. And as a matter of fact, if they were using Chase, at least that portal's open. They might be slow as molasses about it, but but you can at least fill out the application. But some of the other banks are just really dragging their feet, and that's been the most infuriating part of this entire thing, is sitting around waiting for the banks. And I understand the banks' problems too. Every time they set up a portal, the government comes along and changes the rules, and they got to change the portal. So I get it. It hasn't been.
I mean, it only happened like 7 or 8 times last year with all these rule changes. Come on.
I know.
And that's the scary thing is, that the government keeps changing these rules, and to give the bank the benefit of the doubt, like they're spending a boatload of time and resources and money making all these changes to their sites and, re-educating their staff on how to do all of this stuff. And I suspect they're not getting a whole lot from the government for it.
You're probably right about that. I think they are getting like 5% or some very small amount for processing the loan.
So the bigger banks, like the Chase banks and the Wells Fargos and PNCs of the world, like those banks can probably justify doing all of this stuff. But then when you start looking at like the smaller regional or maybe only like city banks or credit unions, like I suspect those banks really struggle with being able to keep up with all of this stuff. And that's probably why their portal still isn't up.
Right. Yeah, I have no doubt that that's the reason, that the smaller banks, the community banks, they probably simply don't have that kind of infrastructure, or developers on site. I know a lot of banks have been outsourcing their portals to
Smart.
So, right, because, why try to reinvent the wheel if somebody else, can already spin one up? As a matter of fact, I think there's one called Focus, and, so there's a couple of portals that a number of banks are using, that you end up logging into the same portal, which is fine because, as we're doing, 10 or 20 of these things for our clients, it's nice when the portals all look the same. So,
yeah, I didn't even think about that. So I'm not doing it for clients, but yeah, for someone like you, absolutely, that makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. So, and of course, that there's a second PPP loan out now, and that was
that was going to be my next question.
Oh, sorry. Please.
No, it's okay. well, no, I want to hear what you have to say about it, because you might just answer the question.
So there's new people, and the reason I even thought to bring it up is because you were talking about the smaller community banks, the smaller banks, and that are really more in the really hard hit areas of the United States. They got first dibs of the second draw on the PPP loans.
Nice.
So those applications have been out for a couple of weeks now, 2 or 3 weeks now. But now I think the bigger banks, are starting to roll out their applications now. The government just wanted to make sure that the small people in the small banks actually started to receive the money, because
that's great.
Yeah, because the last time, the big banks just sucked up all of the cash in the first 2 weeks, And, and even though I think I was probably one of the first people that applied at, as soon as I knew about it and as soon as that portal hit, I was on there at 6 o'clock in the morning on the first day of application. And so my bank, took it upon themselves to give the money to a bunch of the big people that had millions and millions of dollars in the bank with them. Well, I don't have millions and millions of dollars. So, I was just a small business trying to, do the application. Anyway, I'm no longer banking with that bank. And I've decided I just felt like the whole thing was handled so poorly. And I thought, well, if you don't really care that much about, me or my measly little business, then I'll take my measly little business someplace else. And so, anyway, and I'm certain that there are a lot of other people that ran into the same thing with, with the big banks. So it was a very frustrating time, I think. So.
All right. So, oh, that's so cool. One of my colleagues just sent a BAA. I think he's suggesting I share it with you, like the actual document. That way you can have one that you can pick apart and work with your attorney.
Thank you very much for not trolling me and calling me an idiot and instead, providing me with the solution. I love that about the IT community.
I do too. I do too. I will send that over to you later.
Thank you. That's awesome.
All right. So with the second PPP loan, does that mean that people that got the first one can also get the second one?
Absolutely. Yes. If you had, but the rule is that you had to have a loss in 2020 before you can qualify for the second loan. So, so here's what you do. You run your P&L.
Everything under the moon off.
You're going to have to be able to prove this, though. So
legally write everything under the moon off. Got it.
Right. So run your P&L for 2020. And then, at the top, hopefully you have the ability to run a comparative statement. So compare it against 2019. And if possible, if you have the option for the percentage of change, tick that box too, so that you can see the percentage of change. You're looking at top line revenue, right? Don't look at the bottom line. Don't add in your PPP loan, to the top line revenue. Just, your revenue from sales, services, products, that sort of thing. And if your revenue dipped 25% or greater from 2019 to 2020, then you qualify immediately for the second draw of the PPP.
So you don't even have to have a loss. Like you don't have to say, after all my expenses, I made negative $12,000. Like it doesn't have to be like that. It's literally 2020. I made 25% less than 2019. You automatically will qualify. Correct. So for those of you that your books are a little disheveled, if you're struggling and want or need to take advantage of that PPP loan for the second round, it sounds like you've got some homework, which I love giving people homework, Rayanne. I don't know if you knew that.
Here's, and I'm just going to add on to that a minute, because it's not just year over year. If you have year over year loss of revenue, not net losses, like you said, then you automatically qualify. But if you don't, let's say that you don't have loss of revenue of 25% or greater from 2019, right? Then the next thing you do is you run that report by quarter. And so if your first quarter 2020 versus your first quarter of 2019, if there's a 25% loss in that quarter, then you qualify. If not, look at your second quarter. Did that one dip 25% or more? If so, you qualify. So It's not just the year over year, but you can spread it out over the quarter. If you can prove that at least one quarter in 2020, the revenue was down by 25% or more over the same quarter in 2019, you qualify.
Oh man, it sounds like you guys got a lot of extra homework, but it could help. So I only like to give homework that's good homework that helps people, not like I'm not like your math teacher who just here I need you to do these 17 proofs. Geometry was actually my favorite class. I loved doing proofs, but I couldn't remember how to do one right now to save my life. All right, so with the PPP stuff, whether we are an LLC that files as a single member or filing as an S corp, whether we are an LLC or an S corp, it doesn't matter. PPP is not even needed to be listed on as income.
Correct. Well, so if you're an S corp, right? If you're a corporation or a partnership, when you file your tax return, on page 4 there's the Schedule L and the two M schedules, M1 and M2. And I can tell you this because I've already filed my own corporate return. So I just did it last week.
I'm behind. I am behind. I thought they didn't accept them until the end of this month. I thought they'll start doing the personals in January 31st and then the business on February 28th.
Other way around. Business returns started back at the end of January, and 1040s you can start to e-file tomorrow. That'll be February 12th is the first date. So,
okay.
But
this
anyway,
is why people don't pay me to do taxes.
Steve. So, but anyway, on the Schedule L or on page 4 of the corporate return and the partnership, I think it's on page 5, but there's an M1 schedule where you take your book income and you make the book to tax adjustments so that you start with the book and you end with the tax income. And so the PPP loan forgiveness and the EIDL and any local state or local grants that you might have received, they're all going to be M1 adjustments. And that's going to go into the box that is called income on books not reported on the return. And so, and that's non-taxable. So it doesn't need to land on Schedule K. It doesn't need to go on your K1. It's not a pass-through anything or other. It's just an M1 adjustment on your tax return.
And for those of you crazy enough to do your taxes by yourselves, you may know what she's talking about. All right, so I feel like I've kind of exhausted all the PPP stuff. I feel good there. So let's talk about those people that are crazy enough to do their own taxes. Why should I use you instead of just buying the nice high-end version of TurboTax? I mean, Rayanne, it comes with the audit shield. If I pay the extra $150.
Oh yeah, that's important. You can do that. And first of all, I don't know that TurboTax, and I can't even really speak to TurboTax because I have to admit, I have literally never used it.
Well, to clarify, I do use it, but I am an LLC filing as a sole proprietor. So that's why I'm able to use it, because I've got my 1040 and my Schedule C and my 9012 hut hike and my Alpha 9er. I don't know what I'm saying again, Rayanne, because I just go through the wizard in TurboTax.
Right. So, and that's you can go through that wizard, and it will ask you a bunch of questions and try to, determine whether, this is taxable or, or where to stick this. And for a lot of people, it's the perfect solution. It's nice and simple. But if you're running, if you're running a business and you have investments, or let's say you have rental properties, TurboTax will do the best that it can to try and gather all of that information out of you. But it's possible that you could miss something. I was on a phone call today with somebody who, was just the friend. I had a friend who passed away. It turns out they were the executor of the estate. There was this not non-qualified annuity. They didn't know, what to do with it. And, and then there was this partnership from this other state, and this is a community property state, but that one wasn't. And what do we do with this? So sometimes so life throws some quirky things at you, and you might not really know what to do. And no TurboTax wizard in the world is going to help you through something like that. So
that's fair. So with having estates and things like that, that sets up interesting conversations for I think the technical legal term is tax sheltering or shielding.
It's sheltering, yeah, tax shelters. And can we not go into tax shelters here? Because that's a whole conversation. There's just so many different, rabbit holes you could go down on that.
Well, and I understand rabbit holes. So I basically want the 10,000 foot overview. At what point does it make sense for an MSP business owner to consider looking into tax sheltering, whether it's estates or other things? Is it when the company starts making so much money, when the individual or family starts making so much money, when there's so much money in the bank? Is there just for sure this guy should be doing something different? You know what I mean?
Oh, well, I have those conversations all the time with people, especially when, a new client comes to us, and they might be an LLC being taxed as a sole proprietor, just as you are, right? And, so I take a look at what's going on in the business and how much money is flowing through, and how much they're paying in self-employment taxes, and do they struggle with those self-employment taxes at the end of the year, right? Because if you've got $200,000 in self-employment earnings, your self-employment tax is going to be pretty hefty. And and if you don't,
once you get over 130 or something, aren't you supposed to start filing as an S corp, for tax purposes or whatever?
Well, you could, be doing that, right? So, if you max out Social Security, which was 137.7 last year, and I think it's up to around 140 this year. I don't know what the exact number is. I'm sure it's in that one of those big books behind me.
Light reading.
So, but yeah, it's always good to have that conversation. Should I switch from a sole proprietor to something else, like an S corp or a C corp, and why do I want to do that? And if I do that, what new rules do I need to follow? Because people will tell you, hey, you're making X amount of dollars, you need to be an S corporation. And I used to call that, what do I call that? Run by tax advice, because they would run down the street, go be an S corp, right? And throw a piece of fruit at you. And but the thing is that they didn't tell you what the rules were. They didn't tell you that you have to be on payroll. You have to pay yourself a reasonable salary. You have to file all of these different things and additional tax returns, and what kind of expense is that going to be? So before you start, just arbitrarily changing your tax entity, have a conversation and find out exactly what it's going to do.
I'm sorry. I'm not ignoring. I just, you started saying things like reasonable salary and being on payroll, and it reminded me of this book that I started reading.
Simple numbers.
Yeah. So for those of you that are like, what's she saying? Read this book, okay? I'll put an Amazon affiliate link in the chat. Love me my Amazon affiliate links.
You know,
Um,
that's a great segue for me though, because I've been using simple numbers for a number of different things. And please finish your thought, and then I'll jump in.
please, I don't have any good thoughts. I just
So here's the thing, anybody that knows me or has ever seen the chart of accounts that I've built for MSPs, can say one thing about it, that it truly simplifies the accounting process. And then somebody suggested that I read simple numbers. And so I picked up this book at the suggestion of a client, and I saw the chart of accounts, and I'm like, well, this is very close to what I'm doing. And so and this other client said, we want to start implementing simple numbers, and I'm like, great, I'm all on board. So I went in, changed up the chart of accounts. Now we meet regularly, and do the labor efficiency ratios to make sure that that there's they're not overstaffed or understaffed, and whether or not they have money to hire people, so I'm a huge fan of simple numbers.
very cool. I like it. So I'm not that far into the book. I'm just a few chapters in, but I've already it's so cool what this book kind of it flips everything I've ever been told completely on its head. This basically says oh no, you should be paying a lot of taxes. Again, I'm not that far into the book, but the fact that he's like, oh no, that's how you're making a lot of money is how much taxes you're paying. If you're writing everything off, then that means you've spent it all and it's not being put away for your future. And what's the point of working for yourself if you're still blowing all of your money and still living paycheck to paycheck?
Wow, so much in one sentence or one thought there. Okay, so first of all, if you're spending all of your money because you're afraid of paying taxes, then your EBITDA numbers are going to be super, super low. And if you ever hope to try to sell your business, and at least gain some decent price, no buyer in the world is going to say, well, I just threw a bunch of my personal stuff in there. I bought my kids crayons and did all of my grocery shopping, and it's right there in meals and entertainment. No buyer is going to buy that. And anybody that has ever tried to go through the sale of a business process through the due diligence and all of the documentation, paying income taxes is probably the least painful of it all. I used to have this client years ago. I love telling this story. He was a doctor, and when I would deliver his tax return at the end of the year and sit there and meet with him and his wife, he was elderly, and and he would, I'd hand him the tax return and say, Dr. Joe, you owe $125,000. And he would get out his checkbook and he would write a check to the U.S. Treasury for $125,000, tear it off, and he would look at his wife and he says, you see, dear, I'm still making a lot of money. And he would hand me the check. And it was just the cutest thing, so they had, they determined their success based on the size of the check they had to write to the IRS every year. And that gave me a different perspective on
I love it. I absolutely. So, less serious question. Would beard care products, would these go under uniforms or advertising? How does it? How does a podcasting celebrity manage his haircuts and beard care, guys?
That's a great question, but I guarantee that there's people out there. People want to write off their haircuts, and their shirts and ties and stuff that that would never likely pass in an audit. But you go right ahead, enjoy. You're using they're going to protect you in an audit.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, Rayanne. That's what I'm saying. I've got CYA. So, all right. So I think, with TurboTax, when you start adding all the bells and whistles and the audit protection and all that, like for what they pitch at like Walmart is, $50 and we'll file your taxes or whatever they sell that stuff for. I think it ends up being like closer to $300 or $400 when you get the small business version and add on all the stuff. And that doesn't file the local. That just files the federal and state. So that just means I don't need to file the local then, right?
It just means that they're not going, they have no idea who your local person is. And so that's on you. So if you've got a local tax, like Ohio, right? And I don't know what state you're in. What state are you in?
I'm in Ohio.
You're in Ohio.
Yeah.
So Ohio is crazy. Ohio has, state taxes, and then they got city taxes, and they have county taxes, and they've got school district taxes, and they've got local income taxes, the RETAs, so there's a tax for everything, in Ohio, and trying to keep up with all of those localities is just, this side of insanity. But
yes, and the nice thing is TurboTax will do RETA, so they will do my locality. But with that said, like, the single member LLC who's just doing it all on one tax return, like, what are you charging for something like that? But I assume it's probably maybe a sliding scale or something, or a range.
Well, of course, right? It depends on what's on that personal tax return, and if there's a Schedule C attached to that tax return, it really depends on the quality of the books that come along with it, right? So if you hand me a QuickBooks file or a trial balance, and the numbers are all over the place, and none of them make any sense, then there's going to be some additional work involved. But let's say, all things being equal, you've got all of your numbers in place, and there's a federal tax return, there's a state tax return, and sometimes a local tax return, or something like that. On the low end, I probably come in around 2.25, for somebody that has rental properties, businesses, tons of capital gains, investment accounts, or whatever. I might go up to $450, something like that. On the rare occasion, I have some clients with super complicated income tax returns, and they're off that scale. But
sure.
But on the average, you're going to run between $200 and $400 on the average.
But let's be honest. In order to do everything that you need to do with TurboTax, you still have to have all of that stuff in order, or you're lying on your taxes. One of the two things are true. The only difference is if we go through you, we have to have everything in order. Like, you won't let us lie, because now that's your ass on the line too, right?
Right. Yeah.
So,
and you probably don't know this, but the IRS will assess penalties up to $25,000 to any preparer who files a tax return with a baseless position on it. So so we are.
What do you mean by baseless position?
right? So we are required, like if you bring me a tax return and you say, I made, my gross receipts for my business was $5,000 and I have, $4,500 in meals and entertainment, that's a baseless position. Well, I was out meeting people and, I met people for breakfast and lunch, every day for the last year, and I paid for it all, and that's, that might sound like on the surface, that should be totally deductible, but it's not realistic based on the income. And, and I can see that thing's going to get flagged in a second, and no, so then I'm now required to say, I need to see the receipts with the customer names on it, and they had better add up to that $4,500. If you bring me the receipts, then I'll take the position, but I'm not allowed to without, when I see something that's that questionable, I'm actually not allowed to put it on a tax return without the proof.
Well, and the great thing is, Rayanne, this room is 3,600 square feet that I get to write off on my taxes, right?
3,600 square feet, that's bigger than my house.
It's bigger than my house, Rayanne. Steve, I see you're writing off 350% of your homes.
Exactly, right.
Oh, boy. All right. So what I'm hearing is, in order to file your taxes, you should have kind of all your books in order, unless you're going to be an a-hole and lie on it. And if you have all your books in order, just send it all to Rayanne, and you'll spend about the same amount of money and a whole lot less time as you would with TurboTax. Is that a fair assessment of what I just gathered there?
That's a fair but sounding very biased toward me assessment, which I'm not opposed to. Yes, and I'm very happy to help anybody out there that either doesn't have a relationship with an accounting firm or needs help, for whatever reason. Go ahead and reach out. I'm happy to help.
Right, and I guess I want to clarify. I'm not saying like, all CPAs are garbage. You need to work with Rayanne. Like, I'm just simply saying, if you're the guy that's been doing it yourself, using freetaxfiling.gov or TurboTax or whatever else is out there, it might be worth your time and it might be worth your money to just pay a professional, whether it's Rayanne or somebody else. Just don't go to H&R Block.
Friends don't let friends go to, big box tax returns, because they are going to charge you out the ears. They make it sound like it's going to be super cheap, but by the time, and there's the one with the torch that I don't want to name names, but the fees that come out, that I see on returns that come out of there, I've literally had to amend a 1040 EZ that came out of there after they were charged like $400 for the 1040 EZ. It was like crazy expensive and super poor.
Dude, a 1040 EZ, that's like 1 or 2 pages, right?
Right. Right. Yeah.
Like,
they don't even have a 1040 EZ anymore, I think, but it was the one. But
man, if only that's all we had to do, right? So let me ask you this. This is quite possibly the hardest question I'm going to ask you. Which one's better, QuickBooks Online or desktop?
Oh, yeah, we never even got to QuickBooks, did we? I'm a fan of QuickBooks Online, and I know that there's going to be plenty of people out there that disagree with me. However, we're an accounting firm, and so we actually are not taking QuickBooks Desktop clients because it becomes so hard for us to log into their system to get to their books, right? I've got to go through, go through the firewall. I've got to, RDP in, VPN, then into the
or they've got to send you the accountant's copy and hope that you get it back to them within a few days so that they can start working on it again.
Right, because they can't run payroll or add a chart of accounts, and then, but if I do finally get into, through this firewall or, on the AWS with Duo attached to it, and, and this one's up on Google Cloud, and this one's over here on Azure, we were chasing QuickBooks files literally all around the world trying to get in. And I thought, this is crazy. So we made the decision to go with QuickBooks Online across the board, and it just has made life so much easier for us, not to mention the automation tools that we can use. We use HubDoc, Bill.com, Fathom for reporting, and we work with Autotask or ConnectWise users, even Repair Shopper, so people that are using Repair Shopper, we use that. We have a couple of clients on Kaseya, BMS, so again, and all of these things integrate so nicely with QuickBooks Online. We'll automate things like Connect Booster, and just automate the entire accounting process as much as possible. And it's so much easier to do with QuickBooks Online for us.
All right. So what about those other solutions though, like Xero and FreshBooks and Wave Accounting if you're crazy and want to go for the free one?
So I have one client that's using Wave, and that's fine for them. They're super small, and as soon as they start to outgrow Wave, we move them over to QuickBooks Online. I really wanted to like Xero. I really wanted to like Xero because, I have this love-hate relationship with Intuit, and, and nothing made me more excited than a viable competitor. But as an accountant, it's just not it's not a good system for us. I know that there's tons of MSPs out there using Xero and they love it, and that's great. So Autotask has an integration with Xero, so does ConnectWise. You can always use Zapier to do your integrations, if there's not one native. FreshBooks is a terrible accounting system.
FreshBooks, I don't think, is technically an accounting system.
I don't think it is either. I think it's like a payment system because there's an integration from FreshBooks into QuickBooks. So you can collect your money from FreshBooks, and import it right into QuickBooks, but that doesn't make a whole lot of sense because you could just as easily set up the merchant system right inside QuickBooks and collect the money from QuickBooks and forget about the third party. So I'm definitely
for the amount of money that QuickBooks charges, are you sure you just can't like Xero better? I swear QuickBooks, like I was looking the other day, I'm not a QuickBooks user. I was looking the other day at it, and it's like log me in price increases over at Intuit. Like they are nuts. I think one of the QuickBooks products is now like the standard one's like $70, and then like the nicer one is like over 100. Like they're high.
So
where's Intuit based? Do they have recreational marijuana there? Because they are high.
That's awesome. QuickBooks Online Advanced is the $150 per month system, and that is probably the online equivalent of Enterprise, right? So, and if you think about QuickBooks Enterprise, that you're probably not going to get for under $2,800 a year anyway. It kind of evens itself out. Then QuickBooks Online Plus, which is like the online equivalent to QuickBooks Premier versions, that is the $70 per month subscription. There's one that QuickBooks or Intuit is no longer selling retail. It's called Online Essentials, which is kind of like the QuickBooks Pro version, but you can't buy that directly from QuickBooks anymore. You have to get that through a reseller like me. And so I'm a reseller of all versions of QuickBooks, and I pass my discount on to my clients. So instead of paying $70 a month, you would pay me $45 per month for the QuickBooks Online Plus, and then the Essentials, and I sell so few of the Essentials versions. I think that what used to retail for like $40, and now I sell it for like $27.50 per month or something like that. So I tend to, just push, share my discounts with my clients.
That's really cool. So yeah, I see it does look like if I go to the QuickBooks Online site, they advertise Simple Start, Essentials, Plus, and Advanced.
Oh, do they?
So if I go and
there, Essentials wasn't on that page.
Interesting. So Essentials I see is 50% off for 3 months. I can get it for $20 for 3 months, and then it bumps up to $40.
Right.
And you said that one you sell
and I sell it for $27.50, and
awesome.
My discount lasts the lifetime of the subscription until, of course, you move it to somebody else. If you want to, if I were to transfer the billing back to you, you're going to be back up at retail, by the next month. So if you didn't want to work with me, you can find another QuickBooks reseller, and then I can transfer the subscription over to them so that you get to keep your discount.
Nice. So there you go, guys. Even if you don't want to work with Rayanne, go find basically is it technically an Intuit certified gold or something, or is it just a reseller? Anyone?
Practically anybody with a QuickBooks Pro Advisor account can be a reseller. Mm-hmm.
That was the word I was looking for. Like I said, I'm not an Intuit person anymore. So find a Pro Advisor. If you don't want to go with Rayanne because you're a jerk, you can go to the QuickBooks website, and they've got a Pro Advisor search, and you can find somebody, and they'll sell you QuickBooks. They might not even give you the same awesome price that Rayanne would because she's awesome, but it's okay if you want to be a jerk. Okay, so let's talk. You mentioned that QuickBooks integrates with all these great PSA solutions. But the one PSA that you can really talk about well is Autotask, because as we said earlier, you are an Autotask consultant.
Yeah. So anybody that doesn't know me or doesn't know about my podcast, I have a podcast with my friend Chris Tim over in the UK, and it's called PSA Impact. And when we started the podcast, our intent was to talk independently and not promote any one PSA over another. But the reality of it is that both Chris and I are Autotask consultants, and so most of our conversations are, end up, well, this is how it's done in Autotask. So if you're a PSA user, or even more so an Autotask user, check out psaimpact.net. And and check out our podcast. So we talk about all things, literally all things PSA.
Awesome. So with the Autotask stuff, what exactly does Autotask consulting mean? Because I assume that means we have to pay you like tens of thousands of dollars to, come out and fix our Autotask, or say you did, and then we still don't know how to use Autotask, and then there's like two Bobs, and they're downsizing, and no, not like Office Space. Okay.
My approach on Autotask consulting is, well, one, it's very COVID friendly. I will absolutely hop into a plane and come and spend 3 days on site with you if you feel that that's the best way, right? But I've been doing this for a really long time, and what I generally do is set up Zoom calls or Teams meetings, and where we share your screen, pass the mouse back and forth, have a conversation, what's working, what is not working, and then we make changes to your system to get it working, right? So the first thing that we do is we start with a planning session. Let's kind of go through everything. Do you want to understand opportunities in the CRM piece and the quoting piece? Are you struggling with your invoicing or your contracts? How about the workflow? Do you need workflows set up, or is your service delivery, the service desk, is that working efficiently? Where are the problems, and let's get in there and fix them together, right? So no, you're not going to pay me thousands of dollars to get into your Autotask and and fix it for you, because I'll fix it the way I would fix mine. But you might get in there and you'll be like, I can't find anything. What did you do? Give me my money back, right? So we make the decisions together, and we make the changes together. So if we do work together, I'm going to need you to assign one person or more than one person to be on those calls with me, somebody that can make decisions, somebody that knows what's going on, and we'll fix the problems. Or in other cases, somebody's just signing on to Autotask and signing on to Data RMM, and they have no idea, the behemoth that just got tossed into their lap. And so, I'll start, from the very beginning. Here's where you go to upload your logos, and here's where you go to put in your people, and let's talk work types and roles and contracts and tickets and workflows and all of that stuff. And then off to RMM we go, and connect that in, make sure that the two systems are communicating, the tickets are coming in. How do we stop the noise, for self-correcting tickets, from the RMM, this machine's offline, the backup didn't work. Oh, machine's back on, so how do we auto, shut down those tickets, and keep them out of the actual service desk so that, it's not a bunch of noise, so somebody should be looking at it, but it doesn't need to be in the main service queue, I would think. Anyway, so that's kind of how I do that.
Excellent. And do you, I don't know if prefer is the right word, because I don't want to, make anyone feel excluded, but do you have a preference, or do you focus more on people that are just getting started in Autotask, or people that have been using it and it not very well?
No, I have a fair mix of both. Some people will call me. I purchased Autotask 3 years ago. We've had it here, and still nobody knows how to use this. What can we do? And others are brand new to it. Others have been in the system for 10 years, and now they've got 10 years worth of stuff. Garbage. I didn't want to say that, because, but yeah,
I'll throw an MSP under the bus. It's garbage.
Because every time you have a change in hands, at the service desk or in the office, somebody else is putting in what they think is right, and then the next person comes in. No, that was all wrong. This is the right way to do it. And then the next person, no. Let's scrap all of that. Let's do this. And then it turns into a big mess. So we've got some cleanup to do.
So that brings up a great point. You said this person thinks they're doing it right. Maybe that person thinks they're doing it right, but they're not doing it the same way. So do you like to use, and I don't know what they call them anymore, but the templates that were up in the corner of Autotask, and you could use that to fill out a ticket time entry or a ticket itself?
Mm-hmm.
What was that?
The speed codes.
Yes. So speed codes. Would you recommend setting up some speed code templates that have almost fill in the blank answers, what system is it? What's the error code? Is there a screenshot? That type of stuff. So that way you can make sure that no matter what tech is doing it, they're always getting the right same type of information for you.
Yeah, so I'm a huge fan of speed codes and ticket categories. And ticket categories, will actually allow you to drill down even further and have a lot more options, right? So if you set up a ticket category, let's say for example, it's a move ad change. And so you want to set up a ticket for a move ad change. Betty's computer now needs to become Carol's computer, right? So and then you you have this ticket category, and that says let's call it a Mac. And so you've got all of the things. You've got the work type, chosen for you. You've got the role chosen for you. You've got the description chosen for you. And the tech doesn't even get the option to change the work type, or so you can really lock down these tickets. And the object here is to take the decision away from the technicians. The technician is there to work. The technician is not there to determine whether this is covered under a contract or not covered under a contract, or whether this is billable, or whether they should be doing the on-site, work type, or the after-hours work type, or the remote work type. Stop making them think about these things. If you set up the ticket categories and the speed codes for the time entries, you can standardize all this stuff and automate it in your system, right? Because the number one complaint you're probably hearing from your techs is, I hate opening tickets. I have to click 1,000 times. I've got to type in a bunch of stuff, and I don't create tickets because it's a pain in the neck. And so take the pain away from them, and just say, okay, listen, hey, if it's a move ad change, pick up the Mac speed code or the Mac template or category, and hit save, and then off you go, enter your time. And it's really going to streamline the service delivery in so many ways.
Another thing I recommend is, it's like I got louder over at your end or something. I started hearing myself. It was weird. Now it's calm now. So another thing I recommend with Autotask is they have the ability to do checklists in their tickets. Now, back when I was using Autotask, I think they had a limit of like 20 items. Do they still have that?
If they do, I haven't hit it, but I generally put 20 checklist items in my tickets. So I don't know that there's a limit on it.
I may have OCD when it comes to. When I think of checklists, I want to make sure that like any idiot can walk over to my PSA, open up a ticket, and here's all the things I need to do. Like, so no offense to the idiots out there. So with that, like, checklists, what are some common checklists that you find yourself making for like most MSPs?
And I generally let them make their own checklists, but
okay.
For here's a perfect example. We'll have a checklist for onboarding a new employee, right? So for your customer has a new employee come on board, the first thing they do is they contact you. Hey, Mary Jones is starting on Monday. So what do you have to do? You've got to get them an Office 365 license. You got to get them into Autotask. You've got to, set them up on, the Active Directory. You set up the credentials, get them, into your Pass portal or whatever password, system that you're using, IT Glue, update that. I update your Autotask for the contact, so there's a number of steps that need to be taken, when one of your customers onboards one employee. And so, that's a checklist right there.
I love it.
So, and things like that. Because everybody's going to be using different tools, and don't forget to install the agent, right? You've got to install the agents. You've got to install this. You've got to install that, is this, and then document this and document that. And so I generally let the MSPs create their own checklists, but I will help them get them set up and, put them in. Mm-hmm.
Some other checklists I've seen, some of the larger Autotask, I'm going to say Autotask firms, larger MSPs using Autotask. I have seen people set up different sets of move, add, change checklists. So getting a new computer, here's a checklist for migrating all their stuff and setting up the new computer. Getting a new phone, whether it's a desk phone or an iPhone or whatever, moving to a different desk or office. And they'll have all kinds of awesome stuff in those checklists, like, verify that the Ethernet is labeled on the wall and that it is correctly patched in the switch, and that the switch is set up with the correct VLAN and all that stuff. I've seen people do that in their checklists. I'm more of a don't forget to install the printer on my checklist kind of guy. There's the checklist is great for helping you, remember to do all the things that you might forget to do, just because there is a lot to do when you're doing something that your customer says, oh yeah, I just need you to move my computer real quick to the other room. Yeah, real quick. No problem. Gotcha. Workflows. I've had a few people complain that ConnectWise does invoicing better. And I don't know if it's because of the workflow rules that you're able to set with ConnectWise, because they're able to do workflow rules on invoices. Is Autotask able to do that now?
Mm-mm.
Still not? Okay. So with ConnectWise, it was like, if an invoice is still not paid and it's X days past due, send a reminder. It had workflows for all kinds of stuff, so that you can do all that.
Autotask doesn't go anywhere near, past due reminders. The Autotask job ends at the invoice. So once that invoice is created and it's pushed over to the accounting system, at that point, from that point forward, it's the accounting system's job to collect on the invoice, and manage the accounts receivable.
But they'll say if it's not in ConnectWise, it never happened. So
right.
if it's not happening in Autotask, then how do we know it happened? I guess is kind of the other way to say that, right?
Well, how do you know what happened in Autotask? Because if you emailed the invoice out, there's it tells you that it was emailed, and it'll tell you when it was emailed. When it gets pushed over to QuickBooks or to the accounting system, it will say, hey, this was updated in the accounting system on this date, the web services date. Or it will bring the invoice number back from the accounting system and put it into Autotask, so that that the accounting system has it. And often, depending on the accounting system will tell Autotask when that invoice was paid. So you can still see whether the invoices were paid or not paid in Autotask, but you just can't really do very much about it from Autotask. Go back to your accounting system and follow up with the invoice.
And if the invoicing is so atrocious in Autotask, and you don't think that QuickBooks is smart enough to do what you want it to do, you could be looking into something like Connect Booster, for example. I think Bill.com might work too.
Bill.com is okay, but
okay.
I've run into some significant issues in trying to manage automated accounts receivable through Bill.com. Hands down, I recommend Connect Booster all day long. Every client that I've put onto Connect Booster loves it inside of 60 days.
That's awesome. That's very awesome. And do you have an affiliate thing with Connect Booster?
I do not, no. But there, I've talked with them a number of times, and they're fabulous people. And
I only ask Graham because they have one.
um,
So
I'll
you
have to
should
do that.
you should talk to, I would say, your rep or your contact or whatever you want to call them over there. Have a conversation with them because they definitely have an affiliate program, and basically I think it's something like they give you a little cut of the processing fees, which is, it adds up once you have 20 to 50 MSPs on it, right? So
And of course, I don't do most of this stuff, just because somebody else is going to pay me for it. I truly want to give out good information to the IT channel, like the guy with the BA.
sure.
You guys give out so much of yourselves, and this is my way of paying back. That's all.
And I appreciate that. And I mean, I've monetized my YouTube channel. I get like $80 whole a month doing my podcast. I don't charge you. I don't pay you. So I mean, this is because I just truly love having these conversations and that type of stuff. So I want to be clear. Like, I'm not saying we should always just see money and run for it. But what I am saying is, Connect Booster is a solid product, and they have whatever you want to call it. I'll call it an affiliate program. So I think you should take advantage of it because you're already recommending it to people. You're already helping them implement it. So why not have Connect Booster thank you for that as well?
As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to be on a podcast with Ryan Goodman in the next, I don't know, the next week or two. Not sure exactly
That's
when.
perfect. Just ask him on the podcast.
I will.
While you're live. I want to ask you about security stuff for a minute. I know that this isn't necessarily your wheelhouse, but I see a lot of things coming down the pike, and I do want to get your feedback and your opinion on things. So cybersecurity, there's a lot going on. We saw this I little thing happen back in December with some tiny company nobody's ever heard of, so we don't need to talk about it. But I think I just saw somebody tried like poisoning people in Florida's water because the TeamViewer password, everyone was like sharing his TeamViewer passwords or something like that. Like, Florida's water company was hacked, and somebody tried doing something bad to Florida's water. No joke. Just saw the article earlier on ARS, whatever, Technica. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, well, Florida's drinking water is terrible to begin with. So I'm not even sure how many people would notice. But come on.
Fair. So I want to scroll up now because I'm dying to find it. Breached water plant employees used the same TeamViewer password and no firewall.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So Oldsmar, a Florida city of about 15,000 that's roughly 15 miles northwest of Tampa. Oldsmar.
Yeah. Oldsmar is it's part of Pinellas County. It's right on the border of Pinellas and Hillsborough County. It's right between. It's directly between Clearwater, Safety Harbor, and then Tampa. Right. So it's the town right in between. I want to say it's probably Safety Harbor and not so much Clearwater, but it all kind of runs together. So yeah, Oldsmar is right up the road.
The unknown intruder increased the amount of sodium hydroxide, a caustic chemical better known as lye, by a factor of 100. The tampering could have caused severe sickness or death had it not been for safeguards the city has in place.
Well, they didn't have a firewall and everybody's using the same TeamViewer password. What safeguards did they have again?
Uh, Windows XP, I'm sure, has a really nice password system. Um, all right, so with that said, cybersecurity. There's a lot going on right now, Ryan, and what is your take? Like we're going to have some regulations, and I'm thinking we're going to have them soon.
And I agree with that. I was on another podcast earlier this year, and we were talking about predictions for 2021. This was back in early January, and
Is it with Dave Sobel?
Dave was what I think Dave was on that same podcast, right? So. So my prediction was that 2021 was going to be the year that people actually took security seriously, right? So, and as far
Starting in Florida.
well, actually, I think it really started in Louisiana, right? Because they already have regulations, and this is kind of where I wanted to go with this. Right. So we need some sort of regulation, and I'm a huge advocate for the regulation of the IT channel. And before you start groaning, just hear me out for a minute, right? So the accountants, CPAs have the AICPA, the American Institute of CPAs, and attorneys have the Bar Association, and doctors have the American Medical Association. We don't have an organization, that has compliance standards, in IT. And the thing about those organizations for all of those other professions is that they provide the guidance, they provide the standardization across the entire field, right? So they have checklists, they have procedures, they have contract wording, the whole thing, right? So you know exactly what you need to do in order to stay compliant. When you are a member of the AICPA, you know exactly what you need to do. You have to be peer reviewed every 3 to 5 years. You have to fill out these checklists before you can do an audit. You've got all of these steps, and those steps are outlined, but what does today's IT professional have? They have to find their own training, and they have to make their own checklists. They have to build their own contracts, and they're doing the best that they can to secure their customers' endpoints, whatever means necessary. But you've got all of these different vendors that are saying this way is the best way, or no, not that way, this way is the best way. And so you leave this vendor because you think this one has a better product or a better this or a better that, but what we don't have is one standard way of doing anything in the IT channel. And so it's no wonder that MSPs are so confused about security and the best way or the best tool to do it, right? So, if we don't have an organization willing to lead this regulation or this legislation, we're going to end up having 50 different states with 50 different sets of rules, starting with Louisiana, because Louisiana did, pass, regulations for MSPs. I think it was last summer, like in August or something. But, if we don't have standardization, and I really thought that CompTIA was going to be the one to step up and do it. I really had high hopes because they have that annual DC fly-in, right? So, where they're already having conversations with the lawmakers. Would it be that much of a leap to say, we need to, come up with some sort of standardization, or something? And I really had my hopes on CompTIA to do it. And, some people
doesn't seem like they're going to or interested.
They're going to. And I really don't know that they're interested, and there's other.
What about an organization like ASCII? I mean, they've got the perfect name for it.
Right. So ASCII would be a great opportunity for ASCII to jump in and say we're going to standardize. But ASCII is a member-based organization. I guess the AICPA is too, and so is the Bar Association. But if they have that standardization in place, and whatever that standard is, and you can place the the ASCII certified, logo right on your website and all on your marketing materials and things of that nature. But at least, you would have some way of standardizing your practices and something to go, to fall back on. And, there's strength in numbers, because the more MSPs that get together and say, I'm tired of dealing with this trunk slammer down the street, that is, wreaking havoc on all of these network systems in town, and he's undercutting me by charging $30 an hour. He's got no security, and he's feeding a bunch of lies to these customers, and there's nobody out there to regulate them. And he is perfectly free to do exactly as he wants. He might not have much return, business, but nobody's going to stop him, and he's not doing anything illegal, and I think the standard
until one of his clients have a breach.
Right. So then he doesn't renew his LLC, and he goes and he opens up another one in the next town, and off he goes. So, because the LLC might protect him, and if he doesn't have any cyber insurance, right? Or what is the repercussions of it? So the customer could hold him accountable, but if he doesn't have 30 Bitcoins to pay the ransom guy, what are they going to do? They can't just drag him off to prison. He hasn't broken any laws, and that's, I think, what we're talking about here is, getting some decent standards, that everybody should, adhere to. I have to abide by Circular 230. The IRS puts out, a code of ethics that I am required to follow if I want to continue practicing in front of the IRS. We're really not asking, I don't think that it's asking an awful lot. You can, I have to take my continuing education every year, and I have to take a certain amount of hours in ethics, certain amount of hours in this kind of tax and that kind of tax, so, what if there was, a regulation for CPE for the IT professional? In order to maintain your certification, you've got to have 2 hours of ethics, you've got to have, 6 hours of security training, you've got to blah, 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 right? We've got all of these certification tests, but anybody can read a book and pass a test. So, but anyway, that's my whole spiel on
regulation. No, I love it. And you mentioned having 30 Bitcoins, and I think that's an awful lot of Bitcoins for ransom. But
I don't know
that does bring me that brings me back to what I think is going to be like my last question here, and it's an accounting question. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, like, do we report that stuff? We don't have to. It's not real money, so I don't have to tell the IRS I have it.
Yeah, you do. As a matter of fact, there's a question right on the face of the 1040, and they had buried that question last year. It was a brand new question on the tax return last year. It was actually buried on the Schedule B, where you report interest and dividends. But this year it is right smack on the front of the 1040. And
oh, wow.
If you are, if you have traded or done anything with cryptocurrency. So they're coming after the cryptocurrency.
So if you haven't traded the currency, and the currency doesn't sit in like a portfolio, whether it's Robinhood, Fidelity, Schwab, whatever you use, right? And it's sitting in one of those, I'll call it an encrypted wallet somewhere. Are they asking about that money that's been sitting in that wallet for years?
At the moment, they are not asking for your balance of cryptocurrency. But, in their defense, they don't ask you about the balance in your savings account either, right?
Okay.
But they do ask, if you are, if you have money in foreign bank accounts, and they are treating cryptocurrency as a foreign bank account because there's no home base for it. And so there is a form 90.223 or something
More
like
Greek, got it.
If you have more than $10,000 in a foreign bank account, you are required to report the balance to the Internal Revenue Service. And while that's not required yet this year, I expect that that's coming up in the next couple of years. Where if you've got cryptocurrency accounts, they're going to want to know what that balance is, because if you're buying things with that, or if you're using it for anything, they want to make sure that if somebody's getting the money, then somebody's receiving income.
They want to get their cut. Huh?
They want to get their cut. Absolutely. That's what they do.
So if I've got Bitcoin sitting in Schwab, Fidelity, Robinhood, whatever, that would just show up on the report that they send me at the end/beginning, whatever, of the year, right?
I would imagine somehow you've got, you're receiving something from somebody. I have to play total ignorance on this because I have not done any cryptocurrency transactions at all. But I know that
I know a guy that had one whole Bitcoin, and I think he sold it when it was worth around like 15, 16,000. And he really hates when I bring this up right now. Have you seen the value of Bitcoin, Rayanne?
I have briefly. I mean, I don't, I'm like, oh, what's Bitcoin, trading at today? No, I don't pay that close attention, but I want to say it's probably up in the 30,000s or higher.
Or higher. When I Google it, it's going for 47.3. If I log into my Robinhood account, it is going for. I just don't believe it's exactly 47.3. 47.374 and change. Obviously, it's fluctuating, and at $47,000 of Bitcoin, it's going up and down like $5 to $30 on a time, right? But here he is. I swear it's got to be him. Nope, it's not him. He says my mic is dying. You hear me, right?
It is. Your mic is dying. I thought it was just my speaker.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's echoey and staticky.
One moment. Talk about something.
So apparently Steve has left. So here I am to finish it off until he comes back. So what can we talk about now? I'm sure that there's plenty of people out there that disagree with my thoughts on IT regulation in the channel, and I would really, really love to hear your thoughts on that. So by all means, come find me and let me know what your thoughts are on it. Are you back with us?
Let's find out. How do I sound?
Much better. Much better.
Okay. Sorry about that. I wish if I knew sooner, I would have done. All I did was refresh the page. So, magic.
You know what they say, when in doubt, just reboot, right?
Right.
So,
yeah. And I thought for sure that was the buddy I was referring to yelling at me for giving him a hard time on here. I didn't name names. No, I'm not going to do it.
no, don't do it.
But no, it was my other buddy saying your mic is dying, and then like period enter, like just to make Slack freak out. So thank you very much, Dave, for that. I appreciate you looking out, man. So as of right now, basically, if if we're dealing in Bitcoin, which apparently Tesla will be this year, if anyone decides they want to buy a Tesla with their
I heard
Bitcoin,
that. Hmm.
unless they sold it when it was worth 15,000 instead of 47,000. I mean, whatever though. Maybe it was 2 Bitcoin. Maybe that's why they're so mad, because they literally could buy a Tesla right now with 2 Bitcoin.
That would be nice, right?
Right.
Yeah. So
No, see, I'm the kind of guy. I don't want to have a car payment ever again, Rayanne. So I drive a 2006 Odyssey Touring. It's a Touring though, so it's really nice.
I'm the same way. I bought my 2012 Honda for cash back in 2012, and I'm still driving it. So
very nice. See, and I also don't want to buy something that's going to depreciate so much in the first year or two. So I'll never buy a brand new car again. Like even once I get independently wealthy from all this YouTube stuff, because obviously
right, because at $80 a month, one of these days you're going to be able to get yourself a nice Kia.
Oh my gosh. So once I lost my train of thought. That was so funny. Wow. I legit lost my train of thought. Can you guys tell my memory's starting to go? Like I literally forgot what just happened.
You were talking about how you would never buy a brand new car because it would depreciate in the first month.
Yeah. So I'll go out and buy, a 2018 Tesla Model X with all the bells and whistles, but I won't buy a 21. Just because I don't know. I want my dollar to have a higher value to me, or Bitcoin. And if you just sit on it for a few more days, I bet you by the end of tomorrow it might be up to 50,000. So feel free to buy a couple Bitcoin, Rayanne, with all that money you've got laying around.
Oh yeah, tons of it, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, I gotta say this has been fun. I would love to dive like really deep into Autotask stuff with you sometime. So, seriously, anytime you have, half a day free, let's hop on another one of these and, dive deep into Autotask PSA, because I think that there are a lot of really cool little tips and tricks that you could probably give people, that you probably give people all day long already. But if we just condensed it all into an episode, I bet you'd make some really happy newer Autotask partners.
Right. So if some of your listeners wanted to put together, some questions or, specific areas where they, would love to do something a little bit better in their Autotask, they could build a whole session around that, and start tackling all of the questions that come in. I'm pretty good from shooting from the hip. So even if we did something live and they were asking questions like, well, where do I go to do this, or how do I set that up? That sounds like fun. Totally.
I agree. Do you get as a consultant? Do they give you like a sandbox to play in with Autotask, so you can go in and screw things up and show people how to use it without your own data getting affected?
So yes, I have a sandbox of Autotask. They, it's left over, and I hope nobody at Autotask is watching this, but it's left over from the Community Live days when I used to do my live demonstrations at Community Live, and they never shut it off. So yeah, so I still have access.
So you'll pop into that, test some things out. Now, do you use Autotask for yourself though?
We do. Yeah, we use it in-house to manage everything that we do, in-house. So
cool.
And we, we help our clients do their invoicing. I do my invoicing out of Autotask, so we use Autotask for everything. We've even moved our documentation into Autotask, and So I'm going to probably be letting go of my documentation portal software that I'm not going to name.
It sounds like a sticky one, though.
Yeah, that's a sticky point right there.
So with your documentation, do you have passwords in there?
Yeah, we do.
And are you moving the passwords into Autotask or something like Keeper or?
We have our documentation with the passwords in Autotask, and each person on in the office, we all have our own versions of LastPass that we use as our password manager. But we have like so many clients with so many different portals and things that we need to log into, and and who's got the 2FA set up on this one, and who's got so we're constantly running around the office. Who got the bill.com code?
Yeah. So I'm an iPhone guy, and I have an app that I just got. It's called Step 2, and I am in the process of moving all of my 2FA codes from Authy to Step 2, and there's a few big reasons. One, it is like a premium application, so it's got some extra features that Authy doesn't. Two, it's kind of like integrated into the iCloud for me, so they have like their database, but it's not plain text, so I'm okay with it. It gets stored into the iCloud, so that way even if my phone died, I can bring up a new phone, open up Step 2, and there's all my stuff. And then the other nice thing is with Step 2, they've got plugins for the major browsers, so I can just boop, and it just pops in the code for me. But obviously, it's plugins on the major browsers on my MacBook that we're talking on. So I feel like there's got to be something that does that for you.
There is. LastPass actually has the browser plugin that you can have the automated code. So you get to this website, instead of opening up your phone and typing in the 6 digits, it'll populate it. I'm pretty certain that LastPass does it. I think KeyPass does it. And there's a few others out there that do it as well.
Okay, I'll have to. I've never really thought to put. I feel like that is a security concern in itself.
I agree.
Putting my 2FA where my passwords are. So I've never really thought about. Like, I know it can, but I've never really looked into it because that reason. But I would say look at some of the MSP centric password solutions like Keeper and Password Boss. Password Boss has got David Bellini. I'm sure you've heard that name before.
Right.
He is one of the partners in Password Boss. There's a couple others that I'm probably just forgetting the name of, so it's not to diss them. Yeah, Passportal. That's a SolarWinds product, though, and they had the big breach, so I don't know if anyone wants to use that. So, so yeah, I was just simply going to say, like, some of these password portals would make it easier for you to share those passwords with your techs and keep them safe and secure. Because I don't know. I do believe that it's probably frowned upon to keep the passwords in the Autotask documentation area. Do they have a password field to mask the password and to obfuscate it and all that stuff?
Hang on. I can log right in and take a look in the documentation manager.
Sure.
Yeah,
I don't know what they call it.
Yeah, it's the documentation manager. It's pretty new. That it's like brand new, and
so then it might be a moot point because I'm thinking of the old school. Like here's a glorified notepad. You have fun doing your documentation.
Yeah,
I'm thinking of that documentation.
The old knowledge base, right? So they still have the knowledge base, but no, we don't use that. It's actually a new module inside Autotask for the documentation manager. And that's what it's called, documentation manager. And so it doesn't have all of the features that the sticky one has, but we're an accounting firm. We don't really need all of those. We don't manage Active Directory, and we don't need all of that stuff. We just need to be able to to get into the sales tax portal and pay payroll taxes on time and that sort of thing. So
gotcha. No, that's cool. Like I said, I had no idea that they had something called, like, when you kept saying, oh, you mean documentation manager? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, oh, that they don't have that. That's ridiculous. So apparently there's more that I have to look into.
Yeah. So
cool. Well, Rayanne, thank you so much for doing this with me. This was a lot of fun. Guys, I'm going to put a couple links into the description, so that way if you want to learn more about what Rayanne is doing with Autotask on her podcast or with the accounting stuff, you'll be able to go right there. If anyone has any questions for Rayanne, I'm sure if you go to either of those sites, you can fill out a contact form and get right over to her. And I'm sure she may also accept your friend request on Facebook or to connect on LinkedIn too.
I would absolutely do that.
Awesome.
Well, thanks so much for inviting me on here today. It was a lot of fun.
My pleasure.
And I just, I love giving back to the IT community. And so I really look forward to any opportunity where I can do that. So thanks for that. If anybody has any questions about PPP loan forgiveness or the second draw or the applications or, how do I do this or that, please reach out anytime. I'm always happy to help. And you can find me on all of the socials. I hope to run into you again soon. And Steve, I know that I will run into you again soon.
Oh, you will. You'd better believe it. You're on my short list of people to harass with an email. Hey, when are we going to do another podcast episode?
Awesome. So, thanks again.
All right. Take care, everybody. You have yourselves a great day.